of a run in that women's flyweight division, title defense after title defense. She did have the one close fight against Tyler Santos, which is worth mentioning, but she came back in my opinion, I thought she looked really strong through the first couple of rounds in the Grasso fight, but she did get caught going to the well on a spinning attack, and Grasso, to her credit, and also being that, after you've had so many fights, especially as the champion, there's so much material on you that people can review and start to study and try to exploit with strong coaching. She was able to find that moment where the back was exposed, and she capitalized. Sometimes the window of opportunity is that small, and she took it. And she ends up winning the world title. She jumps the back, like I say, gets the choke. This is going to be a heavy crowd advantage, in my opinion, for Grasso, with it being Mexican Independence Celebration out there in Las Vegas for this event. And as we know from other shows, and especially just in general, anywhere out there in the U.S. Southwest where we've had the UFC Mexico roster, if you will, that has been on these prominent slots in these big cards, that crowd shows up and they show out. Whether it was for Irene Aldana and Amanda Nunes, Yair and Volk, Brandon Moreno against Pantoja, or in any of those types of matchups. Those are all fights where you just have a very, very strong fellowship and fan base, and I think it's going to be something that Grasso can elevate herself from, and she has to be careful not to allow the emotion to get too much of her, right? But I think that that's something that she can ride the energy off of to try to parlay into a successful title defense against somebody like Valentina Schevchenko. On the flip side, though, Valentina has so many tools for victory, and I don't know. Is this the point in time where we start to we've seen it in a couple of other divisions where we've had a changing of the guard and there's been new champions crowned, and the predecessor is unsuccessful in reclaiming the throne? Is this that time for Valentina? I don't know. I mean, me personally, I have a hard time thinking that now that Valentina finally got sniped, that she doesn't come back with a vengeance. I think that we see Valentina's competitive fire. We saw that competitive fire come out in the early rounds of the first Grasso fight, right? After people were questioning her and were saying that there's some controversy behind the decision in the Santos fight. But we saw even in the Santos fight, when she knew that she was down in championship rounds, you saw the heart of a lioness start to come out. You started to see the will of a champion trying to do whatever it took to get themselves into the winner's circle. And I would be shocked if we don't see a similar energy and effort this weekend from Valentina Schevchenko. But again, momentum and energy, it could be huge. That Grasso is not one to sleep on. Her boxing is beautiful. The way that she flows, her combinations, and she is just in and out of sequences. It's nearly poetic, if you will. I mean, in the pugilistic way, it is as nearly perfect in MMA boxing as you can be. But if you were to ask me point blank, who am I leaning toward? I have a hard time not saying the Bullet. And there's just too much history there to say that, and too many different tools to victory. I think that Valentina can find a way to reclaim that championship. In the co-main event, we have a very interesting matchup in the welterweight division that is set to be a fight of the night potential. There is fireworks that are written all over this matchup, but the question that we asked months ago when we were on these airwaves is a question that we still have today, folks. And that question is, just how good is Jack Della Maddalena? He's a surging prospect who is on the rise. He looked to be on the fast track after sensationally knocking out Randy Brown. He was slated to face a top-ranked opponent in Sean Brady. Brady got hurt, so in stepped Elevation Fight Team's Basil Hafez. And folks, Habibi gave him everything that he could handle in that fight. I mean, if we know one thing about Basil, we know that Basil's always going to be a gritty fighter no matter what. I mean, he's a tough kid. He's got a lot of talent, and he went in and on short notice, he made the most of it against Jack. But the criticism to Jack's performance was, or maybe explanations to the criticisms of Jack's performance, if you will, that have been offered by the people out there, especially coming into this fight week against top-ranked Kevin Holland, was that, well, Jack cut weight twice in a week. How much did that affect his energy, his power output, so on and so forth? We don't know, ladies and gentlemen. All we know is what the tape shows us, and the tape shows us that a debutant gave him a run for his money. He is now going back up against one of the most tried and true veterans of the game now at this stage. Kevin Holland was a newcomer relatively just a couple of years ago in terms of the UFC scene, and then the way that his activity has gone, he's just racked up those fights. He's racked up bonuses, finishes, and now at welterweight, Kevin Holland has really tried to make a push toward the hierarchy of the division and going in that direction. I don't know if we're going to have all of those questions answered about Jack, just because Kevin Holland is such a dynamic threat out there. He has striking that comes from unorthodox angles at times. He's a kung fu black belt, but we do know how good Kevin Holland is. Let's get that. He's a known commodity. He is a known product. We know how good he is, but maybe we do get that question answered in just how good Jack Della Maddalena is. In the feature fight, or at least my feature fight, I should say now, we have our own, the Big Yins, Josh Fremd. Danny, I don't know if you have the phones free or not, but I think the Big Yins is actually free if we want to give him a holler. But this weekend, we have Josh Fremd. He's going to be taking on Roman Kopylov. Now, this is a welterweight matchup. Josh just got signed to an extension with UFC, a new deal after picking up 2 wins over the last few months. He got his first UFC victory with a finish over Cedricus Dumas. He then got a victory just a few weeks ago in the UFC, and like I say, Josh is a rising prospect in the middleweight division. He's riding a 2-fight win streak right now, and he's going in there against a very dynamically explosive Russian opponent. And right now I think we got the Big Yins on the horn. The Big Yins, do we got you there?
Holy crap. We're on the radio. We're back, baby.
We are back, my friend. It is great to have you gracing these airwaves with me, my friend. How's we're just getting into me featuring you. I know that you're kind of short on time here going through the airport, but just wanted to get a couple of words from you, have you grace our listeners with your voice and your presence here for a couple of minutes before you get moving along there to Vegas, my friend.
Well, Jordan, I'll tell you this much. Today is the first time in my entire adult life that I've gotten to the airport with adequate enough time to make it through all the, steps that you need to make it through on the airport without feeling rushed, panicked, or feeling like I'm going to miss my flight. And I think this is what all the olds are talking about, maturing.
Folks, if you were listening to us, or if you've been along the ride with us here with the MMA plug for any number of time, you know that if Josh is making it somewhere on time, and if time management is no longer a stressor or a factor in his life, that is maturing. That's growth, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go.
But Josh, let's talk.
Thank you.
Real quick, let's just let's talk the matchup. You have Roman Kopylov. What are your thoughts on the matchup? What can the people out there expect to see from you this weekend as you are approaching this first fight on that nice new contract?
Well, Roman Kopylov is on a 3-fight winning streak, all by TKOs or knockouts, against opponents who are nothing like me. So he has a ton of momentum. He's a very strong and skilled southpaw striker. But that's about it. All he has is a left hand and a left high kick. That's all I imagine I'll be worried about. I feel like I have advantages in many other areas. And all, like, no one's going to believe me, but I feel like I'm the better striker, even though he is the master of hand-to-hand combat or some, oh, I almost cussed, we're on radio, can't do that, or some stuff, over in Russia. But, yeah, I feel like I have advantages everywhere, so I feel very confident about this matchup.
When we're looking at the tail of the tape here, it's 6'5" opposed to 6 foot flat. How much do you think that that's going to play into your advantage?
I love you, Jordan Kirksey. I think it's going to play a huge factor into the matchup. Not only were the opponents that he was facing in his 3 knockouts shorter than him, he's never faced anyone my size. So I'm excited to see, I know he has a training partner that is similar to me, but he's not me. So I'm excited to go out and test myself and test him at the same time.
Josh, as we wrap up here on this segment, I just want to ask you a question. It's a little bit more on the personal side, but as you're about to embark on this journey to Vegas, into Fight Week festivities, it's been a relatively short camp, but is there a song, a quote, a moment, a movie scene, maybe anything along those lines that you can say is describing your mindset or what this camp and what this march into battle means?
I was searching for something like that over this past couple of weeks as I get back into it immediately after my last fight. But the thing is, I don't like to go searching. I like to let it come to me. So I was searching, and I couldn't find. And then I just kind of relaxed for a couple of days and just let things come to me. And honestly, I just want my fans or anyone who likes watching me fight, I don't even like to call them fans, but anyone who likes watching me fight or likes me as a person, I need you to go back and listen to Ambitions as a Rider and listen to those lyrics and just remember that that's what I'm out here trying to do.
On that meal ticket mission, baby.
On that meal ticket mission, man. After seeing Sean Strickland shock the world, it kind of just woke me up and made me realize, like, hey, maybe I can do this. So I'm back on that grind. I'm ready to go out and prove it to everyone.
Love it, Josh. Thank you so much for taking a few moments for us there. We want to wish you safe travels as you continue that trip out there to Las Vegas. Hopefully everything goes smooth going through the rest of the fight week there for you, but appreciate you, buddy. We'll be happy to have you back in studio as soon as possible.
Hey, Kurt, you keep killing it, and I will be joining you in studio soon. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Folks, that's the Big Yins, Josh Fremd, UFC middleweight. Give him a follow at Josh Fremd MMA so you can see all the updates for him throughout the course of this fight week going into Saturday for the UFC. But as we wrap up, just a couple of more mentions that I want to throw out there real quick for fights on this card. You have Lupi Godinez, who's taken on Elise Reed. First of all, Lupi is a friend of the program, so we're definitely going to give her some love. But this is also a matchup of a former LFA champ in Lupi taking on a CFFC champ, and both of these women are not afraid to go out there and push the pace. Again, Lupi being a Mexican fighter, Mexican Independence Weekend, she is one who definitely rides off of the energy. Lupi continues to grow with every single fight that we see her out there in the UFC. She got to the UFC at only a handful of fights in her professional career after winning that LFA title. But in just a short amount of time, Lupi is already making her 9th walk to the octagon since signing with the UFC in 2021. Folks, that's 9 fights in 2 years, basically. You want to talk about work rate. There's an example right there for you. I also want to give a shout out to Mark Mann, who will be making her debut this weekend to kick off the prelims. First met the Sawed-Off Savage a couple of years ago, covered in an LFA card where, coincidentally, Josh Fremd, the Big Yins, was the main event. It's cool to see how these passing journeys of everyone in the fight game continue to kind of grow and evolve through the years. And lastly, Tracy Cortez is on this card. Fellas, enough said. Stick around after the break, folks. We're going to be talking last weekend's Colorado Jiu-Jitsu Club card, as well as a couple of other topics swirling around in the combat sports world. This is the MMA Plug, presented to you by the Fan Cave on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio.
Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. That helps us continue to produce this original MMA content and bring it for you every single week. Tune in to the MMA Plug presented by
Fan Cave
on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio.